viewers, welcome to TradeFlock. Today we have with us Mr. Saurabh Kale, who is the Senior Director of People and Culture of Talent500. He is an experienced professional who brings years of expertise into his company's work culture, transforming it into a very positive and energetic one. Today we will discuss with him about his traits that make him a notch above his peers in the industry and how he is bringing this positive transformation within his organization. So welcome to TradeFlock, Saurabh.
Thank you, Anamika, and I'm glad to be here.
Welcome, Saurabh. So, Saurabh, we will first try to understand about your experience and your journey within the industry as a people manager. So, how did you start and how is this transitioning right now?
It's very interesting because I completed my 15 years, sometime last year, and I was trying to reflect on my entire career journey. And I prefer to call myself as accidental HR. I was studying computer sciences, and I think sometime between my course, I realized that the zeros and the ones don't quite interest me. So I decided to decode human minds along the way. I had picked up an internship with a company back in the days, which was in the space of outdoor adventure, learning and development. And while I was with them, I kind of, started liking this entire space of human resources, learning and development, and how do you transform people. So my entire journey started, with an internship and then became more of a profession. So I, over a period of time, completed my graduation. Moved on to do my human resources, masters in human resources. And then I decided to kind of, hang in there and also experience it. But at the same point in time, constantly there's this thought at the back of your mind that, am I doing justice to my education? So I decided very consciously to be a street HR. So accidental HR to street HR is how I kind of like to sum up my entire career journey. Now, in this entire journey, I ended up working with many companies, primarily in the space of services, product, and then now in the last few years, I've been focused on in the space of startups. So net 15 years, trial and errors, ups and downs, learning on the street, trying to be practical HR, more of a people problem solver than possibly going by the academics of it. And I would attribute that as the success of my career.
That's nice. So, not many people would understand what is a street HR. Could you just highlight on that aspect?
Sure. So street HR is something that you learn, or the skills that you pick up on the street. So primarily when you look at children, you would find two sets of people or two sets of children. First, who go to school and pick up the skills or learn in the school, which is more of an academic HR approach, I would say. And the second one is a street HR, which is more like you pick up the skills by solving problems, by understanding people, and it may not be more of an educational route as such. So personally, though I completed my management degree, got my master's and everything else, I would attribute it to my career, wherein I had amazing mentors, people, audiences, who taught me more than what I could learn in the college.
That's nice. So, at Talent 500, where you have hundreds of employees, what are your major roles and responsibilities, Saurabh? And if you could highlight some of the challenges as well that you face.
Sure. So, the best way to kind of sum up is everything HR, for my role. I lead the entire people initiative at Talent 500. And, just to kind of give a brief framework, I handle 4 subdivisions within this space. The first one is onboarding. This is to integrate and assimilate a new joiner into our organization over a period of 3 months as such. The second piece is on employee experience. And there are 2 subdivisions to this equally. First one is engagement. And the second one is around recognition. So how do we create a superlative employee experience at Talent 500 through creating an engagement and a recognition culture? The third one is HR business partnering, which is to do with solving people problems, being an advisor to the business, and at the same point in time, ensuring that the business or the verticals, and the leaders flourish. The last piece is HR operations, which is primarily to do with payroll and all operational related to people, operational work related to people.
Mhm. So I understand your roles and responsibilities, but there might be certain challenges that you face during delivering your roles and responsibilities, especially in these kind of times where everything is going digital. There is this hybrid work culture coming in, and with Gen Z, who has a very different aspect of a work culture where they want a perfect life and work balance, and they don't look at job like a job, but rather a lifestyle. So, what are some of the people's manager challenges in the current times, and especially that you would have seen within your organization?
It's a very good question, and something that I'm sure all the other HR professionals out there would equally be trying to battle or answer. So I'm going to take my dig at it. It's very personal to me. So here are my thoughts. The two major challenges that all the CPOs tend to kind of, or will struggle even in the future is attraction and retention. Today, with so many options available to people, and as you rightly said, most of the Gen Z or millennial population will look at work as a lifestyle and not as a means to earn bread and butter. It's more or less likely that you will be one of the options in their scheme of things. Now, with that, attraction becomes a very difficult, or I would say becomes a very challenging aspect. Now, for that, I would recommend, to focus on employer branding, which is more to kind of, create what is a unique or USP of your organization. What is an employer value proposition of you, and why should people ideally join you? The second part is the retention, which, let's assume that you have managed to get people on board. How do you retain and how do you engage with them? Because, the average lifespan of an employee in an organization has almost reduced to 12 to 18 months today, which means that most of these people tend to rotate or will move on from the organization every 12 to 18 months. Now, in 12 to 18 months, and let's assume for the sake of mathematics, 18 months, first 6 months are primarily spent in training, ramping them up, getting them up to speed. The last 6 months is ideally when you will start seeing the performance per se. Now, between the ramp up to performance, lies the engagement, which is likely to influence how much of time are they likely to spend with the organization. And that's an area of opportunity for most HR professionals, where possibly engagement, recognition, creating a feeling of belongingness, creating a sense of pride in people that they are proud to be associated with this organization which is building such a product or which is building such a service, and so on. So primarily, if I have to sum up what I said, I would definitely say if all the HR professionals are to focus in the upcoming years, they I would recommend them to focus their energies on attracting the right talent and also retaining the right talent. And the ways to do so could be employer branding, creating a USP, and trying to focus all their attention on retention, which is engagement, recognition, creating a sense of belongingness, pride, and so on.
Mhm. Like you very well mentioned about the shortening time frame of a people's journey within an organization, which is now 12 to 18 months. And there is this global resignation, the great resignation going on across the world where people are resigning like anything. What do you think about this trend? How long is this going to survive? And you, as a people manager, the people and culture manager at Talent 500, how are you addressing this challenge?
Sure, and there's no one way to look at it, Anamika. So I'm gonna again, this is very personal, and this is something my approach to it may resonate with many, may not resonate with some. So, great resignation is an outcome, in my opinion, of a pent-up frustration, long working hours, work-life imbalance, and for that matter, pandemic provided a brilliant opportunity for everyone to reprioritize and recalibrate their life. So, with a culmination of all these things, more or less, people were able to prioritize their health, mental wellness, emotional wellness over work. And which is why personally the great resignation kind of had a snowball effect today, right from the Silicon Valley till the Far East. The ways to battle this is, in my opinion, to make an employee more accountable and the owner of their own career. Now, maybe in the before the Great Resignation or pre-Great Resignation, the employee may not have had the choice to own their careers, and which is why possibly when they had the first opportunity, they took it up. So let's assume that post this Great Resignation, if organizations or companies are to course correct, what could they do? Have the policies which are more employee friendly, have possibly processes which are self-driven, which means that at Talent 500, some of the things that we have taken is we have gone back to our employees to ask them what benefits would they like to have, make them more accountable and owners of their own career, which is where we kind of came up with top 5 things that matters to most of the people in the organization. And then there are frills or things that people are willing to kind of pay a little additional money even if the organization is not able to provide it to them. So today we have must haves and good to have as a combination of benefits, which has really kind of helped employees to take that accountability and ownership on them. The second way to kind of look at it is also how do you drive performance as well. So we have a career framework which enables an individual to say that if you continue performing at your optimal level, in a matter of 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, or 24 months, you can see yourself at a particular position. Now, rather than us driving the learning and development and competencies in the individuals, they decide how much of time they want to spend, how much of effort they want to put in. If they continue at the same level, they very well know today where are they likely to reach, and so on and so forth. So again, making them more accountable and owners of their own career. I personally believe in something which, again, going back to my street HR concept, a lot of organizations, be it in my past or some of the observations I have made, is organizations treat employees as children. The approach that we have taken at Talent 500 is treat them as adults. And most of the employees know what they want, when they want, how much do they want. So at Talent 500, while people are working remotely, hybrid, we have also provided the flexibility, in terms of work hours. We do have across the organization core working hours, which means all the teams across the board would be available during that time. But most of the employees choose their own working hours because some are early risers, some are possibly late workers, and people have the choice to to define their own work timings for that matter. Now, with all this flexibility, we have noticed again that we haven't really been affected by Great Resignation. And the impact of it is that our attrition numbers, and for that matter, the engagement scores within the organization, are very healthy and solid at this point. So that's the way we approached Great Resignation at Talent 500.
I think your policies were so well framed since the early days that the pandemic or this Great Resignation isn't impacting, and that's really wonderful.
Thank you.
So Saurabh, I would also like to understand about the kind of culture that you are creating within Talent 500. I understand how you are retaining people, which is really important, but culture is also a very important aspect of an HR's role. While I see that most of the HRs are busy or working on the sorting their paperwork and hiring people, they somewhere forget that there is kind of an emotional human touch to HR, and culture also plays a very important role there. To retain and growth of the employees. So how do you take care of this at Talent 500?
So we have approached culture, Anamika, in various ways. So what I will be sharing in the next few minutes would be possibly a very multi-layered approach that we have taken. So the first approach that we have taken is an alignment of the entire leadership of who we are and what we want to become. And it's extremely important, that there is a top-down approach to this entire method to madness, because culture is something that is not immediately seen. It's intangible. It takes years of, inputs to kind of go in for people to imbibe the behaviors that we expect out of people, and so on and so forth. So it's a long drawn process. But one of the things that, alignment with the leadership is supremely important, because that's how it gets reinforced in multiple all hands, org-wide communications, newsletters. Your rewards will kind of showcase or display those values, and so on. The second approach that, personally as a people team leader, I have taken is that it needs to meet certain criteria. Whatever that we develop, be it a policy, a process, and so on, needs to be simple, needs to be scalable, and needs to be implementable. And if it is kind of, we are going global and launching in other countries, it needs to be repeatable. So we have a simple formula for ensuring that all the checkboxes, all the 4 checkboxes need to be met while we design our policies, or for that matter, processes, or any people practices that we are coming up with. For repetition, we are looking at simplicity, something that is repeatable, scalable, and implementable. The last thing that we want to kind of, do while we have great frameworks and so on, it's extremely important not to lose the sight on the employee. Today we have at least 2 generations working in all the workplaces, and to ensure that it meets the expectations of everyone, what we have tried doing is keeping the employee at the center. And whatever people practices, policies, processes, or hiring, or for that matter our performance evaluations, or for that matter our recognition, whatever that we design is keeping in mind this person, who is our persona of the organization. And these are the 3 ways that we have tried addressing the culture. One is communication, alignment. Number 2 is ensuring that it is simple and scalable. Number 3 is not to lose the focus on the person for whom the people team or the HR team exists. Right. And that's our formula to ensure that we are able to cascade the culture even while we are working remotely to the nth individual.
That's nice. Saurabh, obviously, when you have so much to do, or whether it is on the culture side of it, whether on the L&D and growth graph of your people, technology plays a very important role in enabling all of these. And CPOs are slowly but steadily adapting technology. What do you think, according to you, has the entire industry, and when I say industry, it is the HR people, been very friendly and open to adopt technologies? What are their struggles, and how do you use technology within Talent 500?
Technology and HR tech primarily plays a huge role in creating an employee experience in the organizations. So I would be worried for a CPO who would ignore this aspect, that, how do we create simple processes which can be executed through tools or HR technology. Now, adoption, I think, let's put it this way, that during pandemic, people possibly were worried how could certain roles or people could work, out of homes. But today, if you look at it, mostly, all right, almost all the roles can work from home or work remotely, right? And that's something that we were left with no choice. Similarly, I believe that, technology and adoption of technology is no more an option. It's a must. Number 2, I think most of the CPOs will kind of, struggle eventually to attract the talent, create a brand position, and, ensure that people don't leave organizations. So focus on the retention part as well. So there are going to be 3 components that the future CPOs are required to focus on: attraction, a very strong employer brand, and, retention of the employees, current and the future ones. So my personal suggestion to the CPOs today and for the future would be, focus on not being a CPO, but be a problem solver and be a solutioneer, an equivalent of an engineer, wherein you may not have all the answers, you may not possibly know how to kind of proceed in certain ways and certain direction, but focus on the problem statement and strive for finding solutions to that. And I would say that would make anyone a successful CPO.
Mhm. What kind of technologies do you use at Talent 500? When we say technologies, there is automation, there is AI, ML, chatbots, robotics, so much. So, what technologies do you use?
So for that, it's extremely important to understand how we started. So we started in an asynchronous manner, completely remote at the peak of pandemic. So one of the things that we highly focused on was, or consciously decided was to be a Slack first organization. So one of the tools that we use as an internal means of communication is Slack. And then the second thing that we did was to ensure that people understand that for what mediums do we use what. So emails are the most preferred, but in our organization, we prefer to call it Slack first organization, which means most of the communication or including the approvals and so on happen on the Slack. Emails are secondary in case possibly, the person has not been responsive, or for that matter, there is a delay, people are working across geographies. And in those cases, only we use the emails as such. We also have, for face-to-face communication, we have Zoom, and, we have a lot of apps which are integrated with Slack. For example, one of our vendor partners is PeopleBox, which we use for documenting our one-on-ones, performance evaluations, our ENPS surveys, employee pulse, and so on and so forth. We also partnered with Engage With, which is another app for recognition. And currently we are also exploring a few more apps like Night Owl, and the other one is called as Proper, which is also used for internal communication, which converts more or less like an email into a Slack communication. So what we have taken is we have kept it as a one platform, which is Slack, and tried approaching different tools or applications which can integrate into Slack to enable us to work, collaborate, and for that matter, even work efficiently. So these are some of the tools that we use at Talent 500.
That's nice. So we have discussed so many points which are relevant for the HRs of today's and tomorrow's. But my final question, what would be your piece of advice for any people manager to be the heart of the organization? Because they actually are the heart of the organization, which keeps a balance between the manager and the employees. And what would be your advice to them? And one important factor or one important thing that you would advise them to keep in mind going forward?
It's a very brilliant question and very relevant in today's times. So I'm going to take a dig at it, because I think as times evolved, the people manager's role has also changed. Today, it's a very difficult situation that you have someone above and you have set of people below. The expectations from the management would be to drive results, and at the same point in time, the expectations from your team would be that you would be empathetic towards them. So the biggest ask out of any people manager, irrespective of any organization today, is how do you drive results and engage and keep your team happy? And it's quite a challenge, if you ask me, even in my career as well. So my personal suggestion to such people would be that you will need to balance it out in terms of your assertiveness, and at the same point in time, be empathetic towards your team. And the way to drive both these things together is to know your team members individually. A lot of times, most of the people managers tend to focus on driving results and miss out on knowing their team members. So my personal recommendation is invest today for a better future. The second thing, that one particular key takeaway that I have had from my side, for the people managers, is to ensure that never lose the human aspect or the human touch aspect with your team. It makes a huge difference. Sometimes people don't agree with the decision, but they do it for you. So have a personal rapport with your team members, connect with them one-on-one, know what do they like, what don't like, know their dog's name, know their kid's name, know their family members. And at the same point in time, know those tiny little details, invest in that relationship, And even if tomorrow possibly it's a huge task, trust on me, the same team or the team members will help you mount it. So that's my advice or suggestion for all the new people managers out there.
Thank you, Saurabh, for such wonderful conversation and your tips for the upcoming future CPOs and the HR leaders. That's really brilliant, and I believe the people who follow these rules will actually be one of the most successful CPOs in the coming times. Thank you for your time, Saurabh.
Awesome, and thank you for having me.